had a friend say to me, you have to write a memoir about this experience of leaving Rachel's ashes. And I remember thinking, yeah, right, no way, I can't do that. I was going to write another book that was a safe book because research was involved and data and I was safe there, right? So, but you know, she said something that was so true. She said, anybody could write that book, but only you can write the book about this journey that you've taken. And of course, it was just like, she's absolutely right, of course. This same friend also put me on to somebody, Betsy Walland, who started the Writers Studio at SFU. And I did a memoir class with her, and then she recommended that we all do some work on fiction. I took a fiction writing course, which was amazing. She's the one that really was able to extract from my very first draft that my story had to be about Rachel's ashes. She said, that's the story here. You got to go deep diving all the time. That's where the good part is. Then I started to really get excited about it. And I really felt, wow, this is such a privilege that I not only have got to live that experience, but now I get to record that experience. Again, anybody could probably rewrite the details of any experience, but that's not what anybody wants to read about, right? They want to know all about the vulnerability and the guilt and the shame and the embarrassment and the things that perhaps you never ever want to admit to yourself, and certainly not to anybody else. But when you have somebody there who will not take anything but that, and who just pokes and pushes and tells you to go there, and it's okay to go there, you go there because you realize this is where the gold is, right? I used to get up in the morning and I would get my coffee and I would start to write, and that was my life. I mean, other than a little part-time job, I just wrote, and for hours and hours and hours, and the day just flew. And then sometimes it would be dark outside and I'd be going, oh my gosh, I got to eat some dinner. But that was what I wanted. I wanted to always have that space and that time to give myself completely to it. Because I found the more that I wrote, the more I uncovered. And you didn't want to leave that space because you knew you were getting down into really mining the good stuff. It's very, very, very... it's very powerful. You don't want to leave that place, right? You've got to get it down in whatever form. You've got to get it down because you know the next day or in a couple of weeks or a month you can edit it and go on that, but you're really looking for those nuggets all the time. There was this huge pile of seeded wood chips in Edmonds down in Washington, outside a house. I was house sitting, and it was all moist and rotting, and I left it there. And it wasn't until I wrote about those times that I realized that those kind of places of decay and decomposition mirrored completely what was happening for me. That was absolutely what I was sort of coming apart too. And I needed to come apart because I was still coming apart before and I guess that's why I couldn't stop, is because there was so much of me that still had to just get rid of this old life so that I could get rid of all that old story. I had to keep getting rid of this old story of, oh, that's Becky, oh, she lost her daughter, oh, and she lost her fiance, poor girl. You know, I didn't want that, right? I'm really glad to have written about those things and realized those things. And realized too that as I went on, there were some times where it was kind of funny and it was kind of goofy. And I never thought that would happen because, of course, leaving her to start with was always quite gutting. I mean, it was awful, absolutely awful. But at the end, it was like I could unscrew the jar, and it was like unscrewing the lid off a jar of cinnamon. You know, it just didn't have that loaded, traumatic, heart-pounding sensation that it did at the beginning. So it's like everything, right? I suppose the more you do it, and the more you find a place for something. It was only through the writing that I discovered so much stuff about all of this. And, you know, it's also something I mean, yes, you have to do so much work on your own because you're the only one that's lived that experience, right? So the work becomes, how do I communicate that experience, that life-changing experience, in words? That's it. I mean, it was amazing, but to be able to have the actual aptitude, the mastery of language and words and metaphor and imagery, it's what it's all about. I would say the other thing that I really realised is just how much I hadn't realised, and then I realised when I was writing, was how much you have to read. I had no idea how much I would read and have to read in my genre. I have read so many memoirs in the last 3 years, and I wouldn't have come up with the book that I've come up with were it not for that. Such powerful modelling right there of wonderful memoirs. I had this a friend, Irene Malkin Nelson, who's just been like my number one fan. She's an author herself. She's written, she's taught writing, and she has read parts of my manuscript. She sat with me, critiqued things, and it's, you know, to have that really wonderful feedback, which is honest, but not mollycoddling. She doesn't do that. I don't want that. Who would want that, right? Seriously. And then, of course, Betsy has been a phenomenal help for me in developing voice, and tapping into the physical sensations of your body and making sure that that's in your writing, so that you really, really go into that. And things like, you know, approach, retreat, return. It's like cinematography. She asks us to think about that a lot. I would say the experience of having written this memoir has been, it's been one of the most wonderful experiences of my life.